the Oxford English Dictionary, they have named their word of the year for 2022, and it was decided by the public for the first time. Are you ready for this? It was goblin mode. Okay, the options for 2022 were goblin mode, metaverse, and hashtag I stand with. Now, the term is used to describe self-indulgent, lazy, or greedy behaviour, and the phrase first surfaced in 2009 but went viral this year when it was featured in a fake headline about the actress Julia Fox and the rapper Kanye West. So, to help us make more sense of this, we've got Dr. Nick Smith, Associate Professor in Applied Linguistics from the University of Leicester. Dr. Nick, thank you so much for taking the time. Goblin mode, talk to us more about this and what it means.
Well, I was very surprised at this, Jack, because I was expecting it to be metaverse, but as you said just earlier, it was first coined around 2009, and it seems to have sort of hit a zeitgeist recently, with capturing, maybe as people come out of lockdown, they really feel they want to relax and indulge themselves to a great extent, and somehow this captures it, that spirit of just doing whatever you want to do, not being under the pressure of societal expectations. So I think in that sense, that's why it rings true for many people. Personally, I was expecting it to be metaverse, but as you said, this year they had an innovative way of choosing the word of the year. They put a shortlist to the public, and they voted for goblin mode. So in that sense, it's a democratic success.
In a way, not to diminish Goblin Mode's achievement by being Word of the Year, do you think in a way we have another Boaty McBoatface on our hands in the fact that, as you say, it's maybe a bit more zeitgeisty? It's sort of been the subject of more internet jokes as opposed to people using the word in natural conversation, hasn't it?
Yeah, well, maybe it will spread to natural conversation. In fact, that's what happened to metaverse. It was coined around the early 1990s, and it was only very recently it spread into more colloquial use and used by people outside of the computer tech industry. So it could be that we get the same thing happening with goblin mode, that having achieved this status of word of the year, people will be more aware of it and start to use it more widely.
Just for anybody who isn't aware, explain metaverse for us, and why in particular were you expecting that to be Word of the Year?
Well, because it came top of it was always presented first in the Oxford shortlist, and it was the one that when I asked people, had they heard that word or phrase, that was the one they'd heard of. Quite a few people hadn't heard of goblin mode or the hashtag I stand with, so that was the main reason. In terms of what it means, it's a kind of virtual reality space. Sort of like in parallel to the physical universe, we've got this online universe for all of our social media, electronic and online interactions just being captured in one huge space. So I think you can see why it's caught on in this day and age. It's very applicable to our daily lives. But for many people, it seems to be still quite a niche word. Not for example, my mum hadn't heard of it, and quite a few older people I asked hadn't heard of it. So in terms of its social spread, it's still very limited in who uses it.
It's interesting that you touched upon there that it's actually been around for a while, metaverse, whereas I immediately made the connection that it came directly from Facebook and their sort of, them going into these sort of online spaces and in fact changing their name to Meta. But have I got a chicken and egg situation on my hands? Was it actually Facebook taking it from metaverse already existing and being a word?
Well, I think that was a catalyst. When Facebook chose that term to replace the original Facebook, then I think it gave it an extra kick. And that's probably why you see it rising up in the frequency charts. Basically, how these words get shortlisted is the Oxford Dictionary team look at the frequency of words in their what they call a corpus. So they have a large database of texts. Things like advertising, newspaper reports, transcripts of conversation, transcripts of programs like this. They store it all in one large electronic collection, and they can then see the patterns of frequency, what's becoming more frequent, what's becoming less frequent. And metaverse over the last year really shot up. So that's how it got into the shortlist. And I think all three of them, in fact, got onto the shortlist in that way.
It's interesting that as part of the shortlist, we had the hashtag I stand with. I remember years ago the word of the year being omnishambles, taken from the Thick of It telly show. And then as we move forward, we had an emoji, I think, a year or two ago, maybe not Oxford, but was chosen as word of the year by some institution. And now, a hashtag being part of it. Are we seeing a shift? Are we seeing a change in language and how we use it because of the online presence we now have?
Yeah, I think that's definitely accelerating the processes that have always been going on. Language has always been shifting. We don't speak in the way that people in Shakespeare's time spoke. It's always evolving. But I think in many ways the online interactions, the social media sort of speed things up, make things change at a faster rate, and people catch on to them faster. So yeah, that's a big part of it.
As a professor in applied linguistics, does it change how you have to approach your work, your teaching? Because, I remember years ago when I was in education and text messaging was first coming about, and actually you were told, quite strongly, you don't use text language in school, you don't use text language in work, in that sort of thing. And yet now it almost feels like language and linguistics is actually embracing that kind of thing, the modern equivalent.
Yeah, for linguists like me, we do embrace it because we're very interested in how people speak on an ordinary basis. We're not prescribing to people how they should speak. In the old days of classrooms where teachers gave a rap on the knuckles to people who didn't use the right grammatical form in the class, say we was instead of we were. That type of thing now, we're much more interested in how people actually speak because it reflects part of the diversity of our society. There's all kinds of questions about what should be appropriate in the classroom, but just outside the classroom, in ordinary daily interactions, it's part of our culture. It's a fascinating aspect that we can track as just like other parts of our culture. Language is a major part of it.
Dr. Nick Smith, Associate Professor in Applied Linguistics from the University of Leicester. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you.